Hello you guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are having and enjoying a lovely spring season. It's really starting to become spring here actually in the UK. We've had lots of rain, lots of sunshine as well, but also some cold days. And so I'm excited that this week the sunshine is starting to come out and the leaves are starting to turn beautiful and green, and my warm, weather-loving self can be happy. I'm starting off today with trying to add a few little details to the dining room. If you watched my last video, you'll know that we recently painted and have been renovating this space. It's really starting to come together now and feeling more homely, even without everything being finished. I really like to make a renovation project still feel beautiful, even as the process is still happening, because we are doing a lot ourselves, and so it obviously takes a lot longer. So I do like to spend time making what we already have feel beautiful and special. Even this is probably going to happen, even if it's going to get moved again in the next week. Honestly, this is what keeps me sane as a busy mum, with little children and renovations happening all over the house. If I can create small pockets of places that I enjoy, even if it's not perfect or the stuff doesn't quite fit right or it's not the most ideal setup, I will do that. And I'm so inspired naturally by beautiful spaces, and I feel so much more relaxed when I see beautiful spaces around me. So it's important for me to dress a space even amidst all of the chaos. If you're new around here, welcome. My name is Mia and I'm a young, I'd like to think I'm young, stay-at-home mum and a homemaker. I have 2 toddlers and I'm pregnant with baby number 3. I'm at home a lot of the time, so I love sharing all things food from scratch, organising, cleaning and turning our house into a beautiful home. Before I became a full-time stay-at-home mum, I came from a full-time career in musical theatre and dance and decided to be a stay-at-home mum almost 3 years ago now. My life looks very different now than it did then, extremely different, and I love sharing that journey along with you. Being at home can be challenging, fun, lovely, testing, wholesome, and a lovely journey I have really enjoyed being on. And as a young homemaker, I'm learning more skills all the time. And I'm so grateful for the people around me teaching me as I go, for other like-minded mums on YouTube and social media that have inspired me along the way. But I'm still learning, and I love doing that with you guys. So do share any tips that you have learnt along the way. And I look forward to hearing from you. So after feeding my sourdough starter yesterday, today I decided to make some sourdough babka loaves. I have made them before, but not the sourdough version, so I was excited to try and see what my sourdough starter could pull off this time. And sourdough babkas were the first option on my list. I'm just starting by adding 3.5 cups of bread flour, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of milk, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 4 large eggs, 8 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and 1 cup of the active, so it's fed and nice and bubbly, sourdough starter. And I'm going to start by mixing that up and basically putting it into my mixer and letting that just sit in the stand mixer for 10 to 15 minutes. I honestly love recipes like this because it's a bit of a dump and go, and I can, while the stand mixer's mixing, I can tidy up and clean up and tend to my children. And because I have 2 small toddlers, they require a lot of my time, which is absolutely okay and understandable at this age. And so I love finding recipes that I can dump into a bowl, shove into a stand mixer or a dough machine, a bread machine, and just leave it and let it do the work for me. It's an absolute must in this season of life. And once it's come together in the KitchenAid, cover with plastic wrap or a damp towel and place in a warm spot for 6 to 8 hours. And then you put it in the fridge overnight. And so I'll be returning to this tomorrow morning to add the filling. And so it really is a dump and leave for a long time, which works even better for my slightly busy, slightly hectic schedule. When it comes to kids' toys, we have this little area in our lounge. We don't have a designated playroom or a space where they can keep all of their toys at this moment because the kids do share a room and the youngest still takes long naps, and so I can't put all the toys into the bedroom, but I do have this little space in the lounge. And it's still kind of a constant battle for me to figure out what works best for us. And so it's just time to go through what they have and haven't been using and sort of categorize them. And I like to keep open-ended toys for them in this space. Things like cars and dolls, a tray of tea and kitchen things, a hammer and nail set and magnetiles, and some cleaning toys. But other than that, I try and keep the ugly pink plastic, bright, loud stuff like you can see here out of the way, just because they end up playing with it for an hour and then they just completely forget about it. And so I love using the open-ended toys to stimulate their imagination and their playfulness together, and that has been working really, really well. It gives them endless play and gets them to use their imagination more when they're inside and having to play inside because the weather isn't appropriate to go outside. And even my youngest, who's 21 months, has fun with these open-ended toys, which always surprises me, I think, because I still think of him as my little baby and he doesn't play on his own yet, but he definitely does, and he loves playing with his sister with these open-ended toys. But it always just feels so good to have decluttered and organised this space because toys just come into the house without me even realising, to be honest. And I like to have a handle on these things to see what inventory we have. So it's really nice to be able to manage that and spend some time doing that today. For dinner tonight, I'm doing super simple chicken and potatoes with plenty of garlic, and I'm actually going to do that again in the week, but a different version of it because we are really low on groceries right now. However, we do have some staples and some basics that I just want to get through and use up without going out and buying more, because we just end up with cupboards full of things that go to waste. And so I'm trying to really use what we already have, using simple meals. And tonight it's just one of those simple chicken and potatoes, lots of garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper. And actually on top of the chicken, my husband inspired me to add on some ground breadcrumbs with a little bit more salt and pepper. And it gave the chicken a real breaded chicken feel. And it wasn't the extra work of actually making breaded chicken. And so it gave it some nice texture. We served this with greens, and it was really, really, really tasty. I honestly was making this thinking, oh, this feels like a disappointing meal. But it was actually really nice. The kids devoured it. I love finding meals that the kids absolutely love without compromising on health or nutrients and all of those lovely things. So this was, to our surprise, a lovely delight, and we really, really enjoyed it. Sometimes it can feel like the laundry piles are just simply never ending. They are so large, even though I do laundry every single day. And I have a few thoughts on this. I've been thinking, as I've been doing the laundry, thinking back to a time when I was first married to Josh and doing laundry, and thinking, oh, wouldn't it be lovely to just add another pile to this? So we've got the Josh pile, the Mia pile, and the baby pile. And just thinking, oh, that would be so, so lovely. And then when Mercy came along, thinking the same thing about another little pile. And then now another one. And I just think the more piles you have, the more life you have in your home, the more children you have and blessings. And laundry doesn't have to feel like a really bad negative thing, but something that we can serve our family with well. And I'm just so thankful for all the little piles that I have. And yes, I know I do need to declutter my clothes, their clothes, and my husband's clothes as well at some point. But in the meantime, while I'm still managing all of this, it's really nice just to remind myself that all these piles are blessings, and I'm so thankful for them. While we're on the subject of decluttering clothes, I've been meaning to try doing a capsule wardrobe for my children, and only recently have we actually got a tumble dryer, and so it feels more appropriate to do something like a capsule wardrobe, because I'm able to dry the clothes fast enough for them to wear them again the next day. So if any of you guys have tried this, do let me know, because I'm intrigued. It feels like something that's really going to work for our family, and even for myself, I try and do sort of pregnancy capsules and postpartum capsule wardrobes and everything in between, but I've fallen short of that recently, and I'd really like to get back into it. So do let me know if you have any tips or things that have or have not worked for you guys. I'd be definitely intrigued, because Mama needs some help. Okay, it is the next morning, and in a pot I am going to add some cocoa powder, sugar and the softened butter for my sourdough babka to start it up again, heat it on low until the butter is melted, and kind of keeping this stirring occasionally. And then I'm going to divide the dough into 2 equal portions because this recipe does provide 2 loaves, so you can use a bench scraper for this, or a knife, or whatever's practical for you. And then once you've rolled it out into I think it's about 10 by 14 inch rectangle. I did not do that. This was about 5 a.m. I just rolled it out into some sort of flat blob, and it worked out okay. I probably should have put more detail in, but hey ho, it was still edible. And then you're going to add the filling to the edge, except on one short end, and leave about an inch of dough showing. I added a ton of chocolate chips because I actually didn't have all that I needed for the filling. I didn't have enough, so I just filled it with chocolate chips and figured that it would just melt all over. Once you rolled up your dough from the opposite short end, cut the roll down the middle and sort of twist it and plait it into a flat sort of shape. Honestly, this doesn't have to be perfect. I just did any old sort of shape and it worked out just fine. Again, it was quite early in the morning. You will want to let the babkas rise for about 4 hours and put on an egg wash. I forgot to do an egg wash, so mine would have been more shiny, but unfortunately it wasn't. And then bake for 40 to 45 minutes. I went down an absolute treat. Spring has sprung here in the garden, and I was so excited today to just get outside and honestly tidy up what feels like jungle madness. The kids were napping at this point, and normally I try to get stuff done inside during nap times, but honestly I just wanted to get outside, get some fresh air and just tackle, like I said, what feels just like an absolute chaotic garden. It's not too bad, I'm just being a little bit dramatic, but in particular this area in the back of our garden, I just kind of neglect it and leave it because I don't see it very often apart from when I walk in through the back of the garden, but it just needed some love. I wasn't sure what was a weed, what was a flower, what was going to bud, what wasn't, and so honestly I just needed to start pulling some weeds out. And it felt like a bit of a tedious job because you obviously need to pull out the root, and some of these roots were just so deep it felt almost impossible. I decided to leave this sort of big bush thing at the back. If anyone knows what this is, do let me know. And just trim down some of the leaves just to make it a little bit more accessible and smaller so you can see it. But I started off just removing all the weeds surrounding it and getting up as much as possible. We get a lot of moss growing on the rockery down below, this little patch, and lots of different types of things, including nettles and stuff, so I really wanted to try and get rid of a lot of those things. It does feel really nice to be back in the garden after just what feels like seasons of being in and out of the garden for so long. I think having young children and them requiring a lot of your time, even when they're outside, I still need to be sort of monitoring them because they are so young, so it's just nice to spend some focused time in the garden sorting it out. And the previous owners of this house did an absolutely incredible job in this garden. They just made it so beautiful, so homely and so great, but we have done a rubbish job of maintaining it. And so it's just so nice to spend some time in the birds and the trees and the peace and quiet today getting this job done. I say done, I feel like I actually only did this a few weeks ago and now I need to do it all over again. So I guess gardening is never really done, is it? A bit like housework. it's a continuous endless job, and that's okay. For dinner again tonight, you guessed it, we are having chicken and potatoes. It is a different version this time. I ordered a huge bag of potatoes from Costco, which we've been loving. My husband is a huge potato advocate and will happily tell you that. But I did have some chicken in the freezer that was thawing out during the day while I've been in the garden, so I am doing chicken potatoes again, but this time more of a roast style version with layered onions and potatoes with a whole chicken on top, seasoned with butter, salt and pepper, some thyme, mixed herbs and a bay leaf, and just letting that sit in the oven for an hour or so. When I pulled it out, it did need more time. I decided to spice up this meal, which was very, very exciting, with some sausages wrapped in bacon, pigs in blankets. I was trying to think of the name, I couldn't remember. With pigs in blankets, and that was just so exciting, and my kids just thought that was the dream, which is so funny. I served this with some chopped greens. I do like to chop the inside of my greens just to remove that stiff stem, easy to say, and it just makes it a little bit more pleasant once it's been boiled, and softer, and particularly for the children as well, so they don't have to chew through that stem. And we served this with gravy and chicken juice, and I was able to use the chicken leftovers for some stock the next day. So all in all, it's a great meal. We don't get through a whole chicken ourselves in one meal as a family, so this can last for tomorrow, and I can use this again in another meal and use all the shredded chicken for fajitas or curries or chicken mayo sandwiches. I really like to do with some homemade mayo. That's really simple, but I really like a good whole chicken, and one day I would love to have my own chickens, not to butcher and eat, but to have in the garden and use for eggs. The last thing that I wanted to do today was spend some time outside collecting some beautiful flowers. As I say, spring is here, and so are the lovely, lovely flowers. And some would say this is kind of collecting weeds, but honestly I really like to just bring the outdoors inside and have some fresh flowers floating around the house. It just makes it feel really calm and peaceful, and brings nature inside for those rainy days when it feels particularly sad to be inside. So I really enjoyed this task. Thank you so much for being here today. I've loved spending this time with you, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye bye.